chapter 3 is a car that can fly, and it's about product, right? It's about you've got to get the product right, and the product is the essence of my pitch in this chapter is to get the product right. The consumer has to buy what you are selling, and I know that sounds weird because that seems so obvious, but I do observe many entrepreneurs getting wrapped up in making their product exactly perfect in terms of what they think it should be, and then the market doesn't engage and purchase. And so that's the concept of a minimum viable product. You get the minimum viable product out there, you see how the consumer responds, and then you react to the consumer, you improve the product, and so on. There's some great stories, but in our world, an example of this was traditionally coffee shops in the 90s were these, sort of knockoffs of some Italian style espresso bar. The menu boards, the left menu board, which is the most powerful menu board, would have, cappuccinos, lattes, espressos, the traditional Italian drinks. And what we realized quite quickly is what people were buying. People weren't buying cappuccinos. They were buying sweet bomb lattes, is what we call them, right? And so it's a latte with a whole bunch of flavor, chocolate, caramel, whatever it might be, whipped cream, garnish on top. And we lovingly refer to these as sweet bomb lattes. We made that the left menu board in our operation, and I believe that's one of the things that really powered our business, is that we got really into marketing and selling the product that the consumer wanted to buy, right? We weren't wrapped up in marketing these Italian versions like, Campanas and macchiatos and espressos and, and so on. So anyway, that's from our history, an example. Here's another thing too about sort of the product and the entrepreneur in a startup. I write about how I rarely ever hear someone whose business isn't performing the way they want it to stating, I just haven't figured out what the customer wants to buy from me. And that's a shift in mentality. Like when somebody is the business isn't performing, they'll look at the product, they'll try to tweak the product, improve the product, but are they truly engaging the consumer and understanding what it is the consumer wants from them? And it seems like a nuance, but I think the story from Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook is a really good one and very apt. And that is, when he did Facebook, Facebook was meant to be an online directory at Harvard, right? Just basically a phone book. And what he recognized quite early on was, the volume of photographs. People had their profile pictures, and he started to notice that people were changing out their profile pictures on a regular basis. And then he began to realize that what people wanted was people wanted to have an opportunity to update their friends and family and peers in relation to their lives and what was going on for them. And henceforth, Facebook was born. Had Mark Zuckerberg not noticed that nuance, Facebook would never have become Facebook, right? And I feel like that's a powerful story. And the thing is, the customer feedback is a really difficult thing to gauge, because typically customers, they don't give you straightforward feedback. They typically change their behavior. So they'll alter their frequency, or maybe they'll go away altogether, or they'll change their buying pattern. And you have to be really tuned in, observing that stuff in order to pick up on it. It's rare that somebody calls you up and says, hey, this is why I'm not engaging your company or buying your products anymore, right? They just kind of go away, or they drift away, or they reduce their frequency. So that's this concept of, you've got to sell people what they're buying and what they want, but you have to be really tuned in to them in order to get that information. The other thing, and I think about that in relation to our franchisees, right? Like what are our franchisees buying from us? They're our customers. And I think it's a really interesting, I think, exercise to spend a lot of time on that. Like, why are they buying from us? Why do they join our company as a franchisee, and so on? So anyway, I digress. The second component to this chapter is good won't get it done. And I liken this to, when you become an entrepreneur and you start a business, you are putting yourself in a position of competing against other sort of hyper productive, hyper aggressive, hyper competitive people. And that's who you're competing against, right? You're not necessarily competing against the lazy sloth who has a hard time getting out of bed in the morning. I mean, typically people that go into business on their own are highly motivated and highly engaged. And so good won't get it done. You have to be outstanding. You have to be great. And when you've got the nuance figured out of what your customer wants to buy from you, you have to become absolutely world-class at delivering that product. Like the best in the world. Peter Thiel has a book, The Power of One or something one, where he talks about that, where it is like, if you're going to compete, if you're going to be in business, you have to be the absolute best at what you do in your marketplace. And what that means to us is we have to be the very best coffee franchisor in the country, right? And we have to do that through taking care of our customers, which are our franchisees, and supporting them to build powerful, strong retail businesses in coffee. I will close this out with, see, I said here, I made a note that I wanted to read paragraph 1 and 2 of 94, of page 94. And I think what this is, if I remember, I did this a couple weeks ago. So not that long ago, I was involved in the sales process, and I was fielding leads. And so, leads would come in, as it is today, 97%, 99% of our leads would come in through our website, and we would get a notification. And so I'll just read this to you. And this was about becoming world-class as a franchisor. I said there was a time when I was involved in calling the leads myself. I specifically remember a lead came in, and I called this gentleman back within 30 seconds of the lead coming in. He picked up the phone. I introduced myself, and he chuckled. "Boy," he said, you were quick about that. I just hit send a second ago." And my reply was, "There's a lot of coffee flowing around our office, so we can be a touch excitable. I'm really glad you inquired into our company. Let's get started. What would be helpful for you?" And so the point, and I had this, Abby Barchi can attest, I had this mantra for a long time that I wanted to call people back 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, within 1 minute of their inquiry, right? So an inquiry would hit our website. I wanted them to call back within 1 minute. And I got voted down on that. People thought it'd be a little spooky to call somebody back at 2 a.m. But the idea was, like, if you're going to become a franchisee of ours, this is the level of attention you're going to get. You're going to get a reply within 30 seconds, within 1 minute of inquiry. And that's what I was trying to demonstrate to a prospective franchisee with that. So good won't get it done. That to me is a really powerful thing in business startup. I mean, in startup, to generate revenue, to get customers, you have to essentially be perfect. You have to be the very best at what you do in your market.